Hey guys, welcome to the 2 a.m. pipe on the patio. Today I'm smoking my 320 Dolomiti with a mixture of Cornell and Deal's Crooner and Haunted Bookshop. First time trying this mixed together. It's actually kind of good. Figured it probably go good together since Crooner is a burley based tobacco and Haunted Bookshop is burley with the perique. And the Crooner has some deer tongue in it. I'm liking it a lot. Beautiful day. Fairly cool today. It's 77 degrees. Nice breeze. It's about 12:15. Got some more repairs to do on the mower, so I am contemplating that for today. Just never ending on that machine. But I get this email every day. It's this day in history. And today in 1992, Denny and I were in San Bernardino in a hotel. She was there for work, and I had gone up to be there on the weekend with her. And there was that morning, today, this date, early in the morning, we were awakened by an earthquake. And being from Southern California, we have earthquakes all the time. No big deal. So this earthquake started and it woke us up, and we're sitting there, hey, we're having an earthquake. And it just kept going. And it just kept going, and it kept getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And it started to scare us because it started getting stronger and stronger. And so we jumped up out of bed, and we ran to the doorway of the bathroom. And we stood in the doorway, and I put my arms on the doorway. She was looking at me, I'm looking at her. And I'm standing in the doorway. And the doorway I'm bouncing, almost hitting my face in the doorway. The room is moving so much. I've never been so scared in my life. And it just kept going and going and going. And it turned out to be a 7.2 earthquake. It was the Flanders earthquake. We were in San Bernardino, which was like right next to where the earthquake was centered, and it just went on and on and on. And her secretary was we were on like the 7th floor. Her secretary was on the 8th floor. She called down and said, "We're being bombed. We're being bombed," because she could see the transformers exploding outside the hotel on power poles all over the city. We were up so high you could look out over the city and see transformers exploding. So she was thinking we were being bombed, and we were like, "No, it's an earthquake. It's definitely an earthquake." And Denny was telling her, "I think those are just transformers exploding on power poles and stuff." And so we were sitting there after it was over, and the room just kept moving. It just never stopped moving afterwards. So we turned on the news, and we're watching the news. And we're sitting there for hours just watching the reports on it, just to see what kind of damage was done. We're watching the news, and the news reporters say, "We're having another one. We're having another one. We're having another one. This is a big one. It's a big one. This one's worse than the other one." And then about a minute later, we get it. We get it. And this one is worse than the other one. I mean, it's just, this one's more violent than the first one was. The first one was more, just kind of, it's the biggest one I'd ever felt up to that point. But it was just more rocking, like, this one was just violent. We're looking out the window, and there's 2 flagpoles. There's a United States flagpole and a California flagpole, and they're doing that. They're crossing like that. It's like just going in opposite directions. But it was so quick and so violent. It was just, I'd never felt one that, and that was only 6.3. But it was just nasty. And so we left the building at that point when that one hit. We went out into the parking lot, and everybody left the building at that point. And Ricky Van Shelton was staying at that hotel at the time, the country singer. Saw his band and everything. They came down, they got in their big old bus, and they pulled that bus way out into the outskirts of the parking lot to get away from the hotel. And they were like, "We ain't staying in this hotel." But after that second one, it just got quiet. After the first one, everything was still moving. It was like you could just feel the earth moving under you. It just, for 3 hours afterwards, it was just moving. After the second one, everything just stopped. It was just silent. Everything was silent. There were no birds, no nothing, and you couldn't feel anything moving. It was like there were no aftershocks. You couldn't feel any anyway. I'm sure there were, but we weren't feeling any. And it was just spooky. It was just spooky. I've never been scared in an earthquake in my life, in the 60 years that I lived in California, except for those 2 earthquakes. And I was scared to death. I thought, this is it. This is the big one, But man, oh man, I was scared to death on those 2. That first one just lasted forever, and the second one was just violent. It was just violent. I'd never, plus we were up 8 stories high, so the building was moving just all over the place. And they build those, in California, they build those on wheels. The buildings are built on, they're like on wheels, so they move. If there's an earthquake, they'll move rather than being solid an earthquake hits, if they're solid, they just, would crumble. So they build them on wheels so they'll move with the earth, And I mean, I don't know how to explain it, but they're built to move with the ground when the ground moves. So probably not on wheels per se, but they're built to move with the ground, to sway. Oh man, we were just scared to death. And then we went out. They closed all the freeways because they had to check all the freeways to make sure they were safe. Though the overpasses and everything were safe, so we couldn't leave. We couldn't go home. So we were stuck there. So we went out to eat, and it was just eerily quiet. I mean, it was just eerily quiet there. There were no bird noises. Just everything was just silent. It was just spooky. Oh, man, that was just bizarre. So that was like 1992, so 31 years ago. 31 years ago today that we went through that. It was man, I've never been scared in an earthquake, except for that one. Usually earthquakes, we'd have earthquakes. It's like, hey, we're having an earthquake, man. And we never got scared in an earthquake in California. We had so many of them. It was like no big deal. It was too scared the crap out of me. Literally scared me to death. I was like fearing for my life in that one. I thought this was it. And I've never been afraid in an earthquake ever, except for those two. And I'll take an earthquake to a tornado or a hurricane any day of the week, and especially in California, because everything's built to withstand them. Unless you're in an old building, 100-year-old building or something, but anything built after the 50s. Well, we were scared. We were both scared. It was it was funny seeing all Ricky Van Shelton's guys coming out of there, just rolling out of there and tumbling into the bus, and that bus just pulling off out as far away from the building as they could get. Crazy times. The second one hit near Big Bear. So we were like in between the two epicenters where we were staying. We were closer to the second one than the first one, which was probably why it was so dang violent. But it was first one was more rolling, and the second one was more jarring. Man, it was God, they were scary. But anyway, just thought that was interesting that came up today on that email I get. Talks about all the things that happened on this date in history, and that was one of them. It's a good little blend. Well, anyway, I'm going to finish this up. Sit here. Just relax before I get out there and start working on the mower. It's never ending on that thing. I will catch y'all later. Have a good one. God bless.